Now we got the other clocks going. This is a clock that I'm going to help him with next. It's an antique Cuckoo Clock that has a wooden plate movement inside of it, and he's never worked on a wooden plate movement before. This is a beautiful clock. Look at that topper. It is such a beautiful clock. He bought this clock off of somebody who used to be the NAWCC president, I believe. I'll have to reconfirm that. But we're going to take this clock apart and clean it and clean the movement. Here's this clock. Like I said, it has a wooden plate movement in it. My Black Forest group expert says the topper is not original, but it does go with this clock. He says that the clock was made around 1880. So we're going to take it all apart, and we're going to clean it and put it back together. And just like any clock, I'm going to start by taking off the hands. There's a nut on this hand that you unscrew. It's a round circular nut. Taking off the minute hand, which has a broken tip on it. It might be bone hands, but I think they're celluloid. There is a test that you can do where you take a hot pen and you would put it on the back of the hand, and depending on the smell is depending on the type of hand. I'm taking off the hour hand, which don't want to come off. There we go. Undoing the bird. Now the older birds, and if you are a group member of my group, there's a book out, and there's pictures of that book in the featured items of my group pages, and it discusses the transformation of the birds. But the older birds, and when I get this movement out, I'll show it to you. But the older birds have a like a log that they're sitting on.
That's what I thought. You have to take the music box loose again.
And this plate is screwed on. So we're going to have to get the screwdriver out and take the plate off. As you can see, there's 1, 2, 3 screws holding the back plate on. My buddy said that this is a wooden plate movement. And I don't know how he could tell with his back plate screwed on unless he unscrewed.
The side panels come off.
The side panel has got a screw on them.
You undo. The other side doesn't. You
Yeah,
just pull
the
it.
other side got a screw on it also.
Does it? You unscrew that little eyelet.
No,
slide.
there's a
One
screw right here.
And then those side panels will slide right off.
Oh, so you took the screws out.
Yeah, I had
Okay.
the side panel off to look. Remember, I sent you a picture.
Right,
of it.
right. I didn't know you
I
took
didn't
the
take the
screws
back
out.
off. Yeah.
Don't that sound beautiful? And here you can see the wooden plate movement. Now on this clock, what holds the movement inside the case, there's an eyelet here with a what holds this movement, and it's a beautiful movement. What holds this movement inside the case is on the top and the bottom. There's an eyelet here with this bent nail, and you push that nail out of that eyelet the same way on the top to get the movement out of the case. The antique movements are so much easier to work on. Also, to take out the case, they also put screws in the sides, so you gotta take these out. But this clock used to belong to Mr. and Mrs. Overton. And like I said, Mr. Overton was the president of the NAWCC at one time. Now with the sides off, I can't do this with one hand, but just want to show you the side view. There's the case itself, and here is one hook, here's the other hook, and the movement's out. So I'm going to get this case out of my way so I don't damage it. Now, if you follow my YouTube channel, you know that I've worked on a few wooden plate movements, but I have never worked on a wooden plate cuckoo clock movement. And studying this is what I'm doing at first. It looks like they put a small nail to hold the bellow in place at the bottom. At the top, there's no nails, so I need to pull this small nail away. The clock ticks away. When you turn the hands, with me turning this dial here, this right here is what trips the cuckoo. And it's not lifting it up enough to activate the cuckoo because it's not lifting the lever here. So if I was to that's going to have to be adjusted after I take it all apart. And also, there's a spring right here, and it's not connected to anything, and it should be connected to something, but it looks like it might be missing a part, but I'm not for sure. But here's the high note and low note levers and the gong levers.
Okay. Okie dokie. We're okay.
The fly is currently out of its pivot hole. As you can see, I can move this around. That tells me that the plates have came loose. And so the clock wasn't working. Now you have to understand that the guy that he got it from, how old is he, Ron?
I believe upper 80s, low 90s, maybe.
Upper 80s, low 90s. You know, so he's been around. So the clock needed serviced. As you can see, these are the pivot holes in a wooden plate movement. But you can also see the reason why I love these wooden plate movements. This is the strike side section, and it has its own plate. And this is the time section, and it has its own plate. And that's why I love them. You can work on either the strike side by itself or the time side by itself. And this is a cuckoo bird I was telling you about. You see how robust, how big the bird is? It is fairly big, and it sits on a log. There's wire legs for it. Unlike the cuckoo birds of today, with this being on a log, and it's nailed to that log, so you can't really take this cuckoo bird off or it's gonna get loose. So I'm gonna leave it there for the time being. And you see the difference in the, if I had something level. Ron, you got like a straight edge
in that drawer.
The drawer that I can't get to?
Yeah, or
this work, maybe. I can't really get to it. But you should be able to see it from here. If you view straight down these plates, I can put the screwdriver on. This plate here is sliding out, and that's the plate, the strike side, and that's why the band assembly has came off. So this plate is coming out, and that's why things are not working properly as they should. Everything's in a bind because pivots are not where they need to be.
And he's always sending us pictures of the most beautiful clocks in the world.
Now there's supposed to be nails or pins in these plates so they don't come forward, but for some reason there were no nails or pins in it, and so you can push it straight forward.
He was too. That's why I didn't let him work on it today. He's been here.
And here's the time side rear plate, and that's how you take them apart, is through the rear.
Right. Looks like the correct pendulum.
Now this is original chains, and these are real brass chains,
so
magnet.
Steve was here earlier, and I told him to make me one for it. So, well, if you buy this clock and you take this pendulum, when I have the other one,
and that's what antique clocks typically use, was real brass chain. Modern clocks are metal chains that are brass coated or painted. Escapement whip. Well, here's the Virgin crutch assembly.
Yeah.
Escapement wheel.
And you can take a couple days off now.
Second wheel. And they have I believe these are called trundles. I have to get my names mixed up, but there's a bunch of dirt and stuff inside these trundles, which are basically a brass piece. They have holes all the way around, and these wires go in, and then a cap is put on top. But actually what you do is you put the bottom piece on, and then you put the top brass piece that has all the holes, then you put a wire down through them, matching up the holes, and then you solder the top section here to keep those wires in. And instead of pinion gears, you have these trundle gears.
Right. Yeah, if you need us, right. If you
got this compression washer that I had to dig out. The great wheel is not going to come out because of the great wheel on the strike side. So we're going to have to take the strike side out too.
I don't know, they left Thursday morning. That's the old manual one. It's got a Model 72. It's got a big movement in it.
Find me a right screwdriver.
Exactly, so they keep this one. And we'll sell it to David. If David wants it, I might sell it to David.
I'm going to take this plate off here and try to which holds all the levers, the gong, the low note and high note levers, and the trip lever that goes into the count wheel.
Probably. Don't see
That
very
way I
often.
could
Usually
remove
spoilers, huh?
all these levers.
Yeah.
And this lever is very important because that is what trips it all into action. And it starts right here, coming off the
No, but Steve will make it look like the original.
minute wheel, which has these two pins on it.
That's on it.
And these two pins lift this up.
No, he said he's got.
And if your hands are not exactly at the 12 or the 6, to fix that issue, you have to adjust this section right here.
People in the Cuckoo Clock groups overseas are needing stuff.
In order to take this out, I'm going to have to take this plate off. This plate here.
Yeah, I got another friend in Highlandville that has the guns and stuff too. And he's quite the barber himself. Yeah, that's what you said. 45.7. Probably a pretty good deal on it for 45.7.
I believe it has a couple of nails in it. So I'm going to have to get out a pry bar.
Right.
To
oh yeah.
to back that off some.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the one I got with the Henry.
There we go. And now I could take the
oh, you can buy them at Bass Pro.
This is what holds the count wheel on this spring.
Yeah. Omar still carrying?
Now there's a pin here that holds this gear on. Sometimes you can get them out easily, sometimes you can't. But we're just going to bring the plate forward. Now we can take the great wheel on the time side off. Take the chains off on the strike side.
Yep. Well, they said he might still get the death penalty.
And I like these clips more than the modern clips of today. But now it's time for my buddy, because he is the woodsman. And he loves working on wood. But let me see if I can. Even though it's a wooden plate movement, like I said in my other videos, you still have to clean out the pivots holes. And after he cleans out this wood with the New Life furniture mask that he's going to use, we'll have to clean out all these pivot holes, because New Life furniture mask is going to get inside of these pivot holes. and I have my drill with me, and I can attach a Q-tip to clean out the pivot holes also. Hope y'all are enjoying this video. The gear was easier to take off than what I thought. As you can see, there's a hole right here that this pinion gear slides down, and then this little brass taper pin fits in. You take that taper pin out, and then with a pair of flat jaw pliers, turn this back and forth until it comes loose, and then pinion gear comes off, and then you could slide the gear off. And I test them out. Ratchet wheel's working really well, but see how filthy this is inside here? There's a lot of filth, a lot of dust, and it doesn't matter but with Cuckoo Clocks, the way they're designed, because of the chains, I don't care how clean your house is, it's gonna get dust and stuff up inside. Here's my buddy cleaning up that 1880 case. Get the New Life furniture mask that he swears by. He loves it. And as you can see, it's done a really good job. But you have to let it dry, and then you have to wipe it off. And if you don't, it looks like your wood has melted. I've done that before. I got in a hurry, and I forgot to wipe it off. And a few days later, I go back to that clock, and it looks like my wood has melted.
Wipe it off right after I get it wiped on.
So you don't let it dry?
No. I wipe it off and then check it, and if there's any wet spots, maybe brush them out, and then the rest will soak in the wood.
And my buddy Ron, he's a very valuable person in saving clocks, one clock at a time. And you could see inside his office, he's got quite a few clocks that he saves clocks, one clock at a time. He's even got a clock up there, a beautiful Cuckoo Clock. Is that an 8-day run or a 1 day?
It's a 1 day.
1 day Cuckoo Clock. I don't know where he got that thing from. He's even got this clock right here that he's been offered quite a bit of money for. And you will never find, I take that back, you will hardly find a clock like that. He's constantly, when I'm video chatting with him, he constantly is sitting in front of this clock teasing me. But since I got my Alexander Fleet clock,
Right.
I'm a happier person. He's got all the tools. He's got the letdown keys for mainsprings. And these are different kinds of letdown keys. Let me put my camera on the stand and I'll show you how they work. Well, I'm not going to show you how they work, but I'm just going to show you that they're interchangeable. You get different sizes. And you pop them out and you let the thing twist in your hand. And then you got this kind that you do the same thing. You let it twist in your hand. Or you could do like I do and use a broomstick. And he's got all kinds of tools here. He's got, let me see, oilers. Inside here, I believe, is an oiler. No, that's just something else. I don't know what it is. Probably his medication or something. This is a clock oiler. And you fill this tube up with oil, and then you oil the pivots. And he pays money for this stuff. I'm teasing him because I use a piece of wire that is bent. And he's got oilers that he bought probably from Time Savers right here. And if you open up this package and take it out an oiler and take this cap off, it looks like a piece of wire that has been bent at the very end. And that is the same thing as what I use. I also use toothpicks, and I basically grab whatever I got in front of me to oil a clock. What you do is up to you, as I always say. And he used to have a really nice movement stand like this, sitting at his house for a couple years, just sitting there. So one day he gives it to me, and I modify it, and I screw this board to it, and so now I could take it with me and use it as needed. And here's the other part for it. You can easily make something like this. But I think he bought it at one of his clock meets. But I love coming up here because Ron teaches me things just as much as I teach Ron things, such as the glue and water treatment to preserve your labels. He's got the spring winders. He's got the bushing tools. He's the one that taught me in the KWM bushing reamer set that I have. Very good Christian man. Him and his wife bend over backwards for me every time I come up here. And they accommodate my needs, and they love me coming up here and helping Ron out. And so I am a very blessed person. Here I am repairing the links, going through and squeezing all the links together. And when you squeeze these links together, sometimes they come back just a little bit like that. They're not going to be perfect, but I'm not going to squeeze them all together so they're touching. I'm just fixing the ones like this that are messed up, and you have to take a screwdriver or something and to fix those. And some people would say, why fix them? And my answer to that is, this is a brass original chain. Why not fix them? I want to squeeze them so they're all flush with each other also. And typically the first, I'd say maybe foot of the chains need repaired, and it's because people are pulling on the chains way too hard, and it separates the links. So you're not going to find antique chains for, well, you might find them. You're not going to be able to buy them in a store, like Time Savers, Merritt's, whatever you use. So why not sit here and repair them? So this will be the new owner of this clock once we got it all back together. Are you happy with it? Or you will be happy with it? Ron did a heck of a job shining up that case.
That's beautiful, isn't it? That gorgeous?
He does.
I own a lot of clocks from Ron.
He does a great job, out of all the, I got other friends that do a great job, but he loves that New Life furniture mask, and he takes his time. That's the whole key to the whole process, is taking your time, and I don't take my time when I clean up clocks.
I must have bought 60, 70 clocks from him over the years.
He does a great job. I just hope that we can get it all back up and running for you.
I'm pretty sure you will.
Because it wasn't running when I started.
Mm-hmm.
It's gorgeous.
Here I am with my drill and Q-tip cleaning up the pivot hole. Around the pivot hole. And then taking out the Q-tip, grabbing a toothpick, again, let's do things the easy way. Turning my toothpick around. And looking inside the holes, and see if you're satisfied. And you repeat the process until you're satisfied. Putting the thing back together, I got the pivot holes all cleaned out. Start with the great wheel on the time side, the great wheel on the strike side, the second wheel on the time side, escapement wheel, and the virgin crutch assembly. And then you pick the rear plate for the time side. This is for the strike side because it has this lever right here that holds the count wheel. So this is the back plate for the time side. And you stick it in the slot, the bottom slot, and then you guide it up through to the top slot. You have to get this wire out of the way for the for the leader wire to hang on to.
Your wheel fell over.
And then you line up your pivot holes as you go along. Of course, the great wheel pivot hole goes in first. And probably not going to be able to show you on camera because it is kind of tricky to do. But anyway, that is what I'm going to do. It was hard to show you on camera what I did. And the reason why it's hard because with these older style movements, the bushings can stick above the wood. And I'm not going to pound it down because I don't want to break the wood. And I don't want them any further. But anyway, so you start with the great wheel and work your way back. And once you got it in place, as you can see, it's rocking away. And I still have to come up with a nail to keep the plate from moving frontwards. But you also want to, and I already oiled the other side, you want to oil the pivots. And just like any other clock, you'd want to wipe off the excess oil if you get any where you don't want it. So now it's time for the strike side to put that on. And again, I'm going to have to do it off camera. But what I like about the old clocks like this, you can work on the strike side by itself, and then work on the time side by itself, and then work on the strike side by itself. You don't have to be messing with all trains at once. And again, once you get the strike side in the proper place, you do a function test. Now, I will tell you that they worked on this clock before, and somebody has soldered the fan blade. So this clock will make some noise when it cuckoos. But now I have to get the cam in the right position along with the third wheel warning pin to get the clock to shut off. So I have to attach all the other levers and then reposition these wheels. And that's gonna be a chore. When you're putting the gong levers and the high note and low note levers in, and you tighten one side down, and then I started with the high note and low note lever. I tighten this screw down, and then I loosen this screw just enough to put the pivots into the brace up here, into the bracket, and then there's like little bitty nails that are sticking up in the wood. And then same way for the gong lever, you tighten this screw down, then you loosen this screw up, and you pry on this bracket so you can put the gong lever into the respected nail, and then we have a gong, we have a low note lever, and we have a high note lever. And like I said, as I go along, I'm going to have to loosen the back plate to adjust the cam and the third wheel warning pin to set it up so when the clock is done cuckooing. See, I added a small nail right here that prevents the back plate from slipping and wheels from coming out of their pivot holes like the fly was when we first started working on this clock. You know, it's best to take pictures. Even if you did these clocks in the past, it's best to take pictures as you go of every part. That way you're not looking for something that's been in the tray for over an hour. I had my buddy look for this part because I told him there's a part that goes here, and this part has been in the tray the entire time. I looked at the part several times. My buddy pointed this out to me a couple times. He's like, "This isn't it?" I'm like, "Nope, that's a different one." And all along it was this part. So anyway, it's best to take pictures or video as you go so you can put the clock back together right. This wire broke, so I'm going to have to already drilled a hole, so I'm going to have to put a wire in here because this is the wire that trips the cuckoo. There's a little wire right here, and that wire goes underneath this wire to trip the cuckoo to make it come out. Got a lot of it back together. I got the nails up here so the plates don't come out. Now I'm doing a function test. Lifting up this bar. There's a reason why we do these function tests. The lift lock lever is not in the right spot. It was. And the hammer is not in the right spot, which it was. So now I have to take and loosen these screws and put them in the right spot. Let's try this again. The lift lock lever slipped back over again, so I gotta loosen up the screw again and try to put it in the right spot this time. And keep the other levers where they need to go. I guess I'm to point with. Here's a lift lock lever, and it's barely catching this tab, so it might slip back over it again, and if it does, I'm gonna have to bend it so it doesn't slip over. So let's try this again. There's no handshake. Now we have handshake. I just ain't gonna tighten the screws much. You know, this thing was made in 1880. So, it's a little worn out, like me. What sucks about these wood plate movements is when you are putting the strike side together, you cannot lift this end right here. So the main wheel, because of the gong, I told you in other videos that the gong tab has to be almost touching the gong, that you have to figure out how to put these on to where the gong is right where it needs to be, along with this second wheel. The second wheel has to be in the exact spot where it needs to be in order for it all to work. And because you cannot lift the back plate to adjust everything, you have to adjust everything from the front, and that's why I have this Rodico, because that's about where I want the gong, and hopefully the Rodico will keep that all in place. I have to stop working on this clock and I'm not going to be able to finish it, and I'm going to explain why. This lever right here, do you see it? It's to the right of this cam. There's the cam that helps the clock stop cuckooing, and this lever is to the right of it. And I'm going to take it out and show it to you. If I can get it out. This is the brass lever that locks into that cam. There's the cam's notch that it locks into, and it can't lock into that cam if it's to the right of that cam. So it's not my clock. I'm not going to break it. This clock was made in 1880. I'm going to talk to my buddy and tell him what's wrong with it. But the clock will not stop cuckooing. This piece right here locks into that cam, and then this piece right here is what the third wheel warning pin hits when it's all done cuckooing. And because it's to the right of that cam, it will not do its job properly. I think what has happened, that this lever right here has slid down on this shaft, and I think it needs to go to the right on this shaft. And the reason I say that is because this cam cannot go any further. These trunnion, whatever kind of gears these are, sorry, it's been a long day, is already at the edge of this wheel here where it hits. So that cam can't go any far to the right. And therefore, that's why I think that this gear, this lever here, needs to go to the left. And it also might be because this is a little bent. If I was to put this on this block of wood, which represents a straight edge, you could see a gap underneath there between it and the block of wood. But seeing how this is brass, I'm not going to bend it. I will break it. That is the kind of luck that I have. So the clock was put together. I do have, I believe, the gong lever and the high note and low note levers in the right spot. The clock does tick. This piece of wire here, I figured out was for, and it was bent wrong. It was bent way up there. It's to push down on this lever here to keep it in the count wheel. But anyway, my buddy knows a clock repairman who's been repairing clocks for close to 40 years or so, and I'm sure that he could take it to him and he could repair it. But seeing how it's not my clock, I'm not gonna attempt to straighten that out. If it was my clock and I broke it, it would be my fault. I would have to pay to get it fixed, or try to repair it myself. If I broke that brass, I would have to, if I try to straighten out the brass and I broke it, I would have to try to weld it, whatever. If I push this down to the left and broke it, then that would be my fault also. But seeing how it's not my clock, I'm not going to attempt to fix it. Now, what would y'all do? Would you, this is, even though I've worked on several wooden plate clocks before, my first Cuckoo wooden plate clock, not my clock, what would y'all do? Would you attempt to repair or fix a clock and never have done that before? I don't want to. Not my clock. If it was my clock, it'd be a different story. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. I hope that you learned stuff. I love wooden plate movement clocks. They fascinate me. Same stuff as the regular clocks. This still trips the system to Cuckoo. This bird is awesome. Anyway, I hope y'all enjoyed this video. May God bless each and every one of you.